Okay, rearranging the deck chairs on the Titanic. Sam's moving his GMC out of the way. Careful the front of your car doesn't fall off, Sam. Look at that. Beautiful. We're going to move that into a spot where we can do some more bodywork on it and hopefully get some colour to it. Colour that isn't those colours or that colour. There will be some colour. What colour is it going to be, Sam?
Blue.
Blue. They're the same colour, just better. So we're clear on this spot. Got to move the Commodore here. But the more important thing, we've got to move that thing, the blue and white thing, in here. So we can get some more work done on it. It's been a while, and I know Sam's keen to get some work done on it, so we'll do that. Okay, Uber Lily, looking good. How's the roof on your head there?
Good.
Okay. Wow, I'm exhausted. Thanks, Lily.
You're welcome.
Thanks, Josh. Thanks, Sam. Good film work. G'day everyone, how you going? I'm Todd, this is Toxic Garage Customs, and you are viewing Toxic Garage Customs. So firstly, I got a blue beard. It's my new look, do you like it? I thought I'd just sort of spruce myself up a bit. Behind me, you all see Sam's GMC, and hopefully you'll notice it's got all new shiny blue stuff on it. So if you're interested in seeing how we made this go from a pile of rust to this, then you might have to watch some of the previous videos. But if you just want to see how we got it blue, watch this video, because you'll see me do it. It's actually not a very long video either. Surprise, surprise. Catch you at the end. Wow, that was hot work doing all that filming. That's what kids are for. So, Clive, the GMC, back in the garage, ready to do some more work. And we've got the Commodore back out there, which I'll continue to do work on, but just in a different spot. So, Sam's done a lot of work to Clive. We've done a lot of work, but he's done a lot of work recently. But it's ready, almost, to paint the lower side, well actually all of the blue, up to this chrome strip here, which is what his intention is. The whole thing could do with a respray, but it's not going to happen, not anytime soon. And the jams, pretty much done. Got to do some repairs through here, so we're going to take this whole piece out across here and replace it. That is not going to be fun, but we can do it. And you can see some little repairs on either side here. And this jam over here, he's done most of it. Done most of that. Just needs a bit more bodywork. So, bit of a backstory. You may have seen some work on this before, but bit of a backstory. Sam bought this thing knowing exactly what he was buying, and it was full of rust. We've it's been 2 or 3 years, I don't know, I've lost track. Done the floors, all the floor braces, inner and outer rockers, bottom of the A-pillars, the cab corners, the whole back of the cab. Pretty much everything from about there down has been replaced. And big job. First time Sam had ever done anything like this, so super impressed, super proud of his efforts. And it's coming up a treat. This is just going to be a cruiser for him. It's only a 350, turbo 350. And when I say only, there's nothing special about it. It was imported from the States, it's left-hand drive. It was obviously a salted road, snow area car, and lots and lots and lots of rust underneath. The chassis, the frame, is in pretty good nick. Needs paint, but there's nothing wrong with it. We've got the tray, the tub for it, I should say, as well. It's got a fair bit of rust, similar to the rest of the truck, but it'll come along. Sam did put a flip kit on the rear springs, which there was a couple of videos on that. I think it dropped at 8 inches on the back, which gave it a great stance. Once the tray's on it, it sits really low. Looks like it sits really low. So, yeah, follow along. We'll get this thing to a further stage. He's not here at the moment. It's New Year's Eve, and I figured that I'm going to push it outside and set fire to it. No, I'm going to push it outside and I'm going to wash it. I'm going to wash all the dust off it because we're going to paint from the blue line down in blue. The top needs a paint and other pieces need a paint, but we'll get this cab in some colour. In the first place, what I need to do though, I need to de-dust it as much as I possibly can, and at the same time I'll take the opportunity to de-dust the garage as much as I can, the shed, the barn, whatever you want to call it, the workshop. I'll de-dust it as well, because got to be throwing some single stage blue paint on it. It will almost match what's there to the best of the paint matching guy's ability. So let's do that. As usual, did I mention what a beautiful day it is today? Here in paradise. Righto, so I've flooded that thing with water. We've done a lot of cutting and grinding and sanding and stuff. I gave it a really good wipe down last night with cloth and wax and just window cleaner, just to get as much of it off as I could. But I really wanted to hose out all the gaps and everything. What I don't want to be doing is painting and having dust come up out of the crevices. It also gave me the opportunity to find a spot that I just realised I haven't spot primed. So just here. So everything else, if there was bare metal or exposed body filler, then I primed it. But that spot needs a little bit of attention. So I'll dry it off and I'll give that a spot and it'll be okay. And I'm not doing anything from the windscreen forward just at the moment. So there's still some future work, there's some further work to do here, finish off through here and so on. But we're pretty good otherwise. So, got to do the workshop now. I did it out here so I didn't get it too wet because I didn't really want muddy dust. So I'll give it all a really good sweep in here. So I've got the fan going, it's pretty noisy. I'll give it a really good sweep in here, vacuum some areas, and I will probably even hose it. Righto, so got Clive the GMC, his name's Clive by the way if you didn't know. Got Clive the GMC back in the shop, gave the shop a soup and covered a lot of stuff I don't want to overspray on, and just to contain the dust that might be behind there. So gave Clive a good blow down with the compressed air as well, just to give him a dry off. And what I've been doing is masking up. So, as I explained earlier, we're not painting this whole truck at the moment, although the roof does need some work. Sam wants to see some progress, so we're going to paint the bottom of it and we'll worry about the top later. Reality is the top of it is livable, the bottom wasn't. So I've started masking, so I'm just protecting the chassis there a little bit. Workshop Band-Aid. Just protecting the chassis there a little bit. I'll drape stuff over the rest of it. And there was a chrome strip that goes across here, so we're just painting up to where it was previously. So the chrome strip will make the divide between the white and the blue. So everything below will be blue, above will be white, including in the door jambs. So all this area through here, then down on the sills, rockers, whatever you want to call them. And we've just decided we're just going to paint around through here. So there's a door rubber that goes down through here, so it doesn't have to be perfect. There's white underneath this tape, and I've just chosen a line to go down through here and somewhere across here. Why? Because it's a line. So all of this will be painted blue. Probably won't even worry about trying to fully paint this. It'll just be like a drift area because that's all behind the mudguard and it's already got paint on it. So we will get some paint up into these areas. A bit more seam sealer probably wouldn't hurt either. So the whole roof will be masked. Hopefully you didn't catch that sneeze. So whole engine bay will be covered, all that sort of stuff. Not painting anything forward of the windscreen at the moment. That still needs a little bit of extra work. Again, just trying to make progress. It'd be perfect to do it at the moment, but make a big chunk of progress. We can worry about little bits later. So again, masked the same over this side. Now what I've done across here, so things like the filler neck hole, bolts. I don't want any drift in there. Sam's gone through and he's blackened all the work that he's done in there, so don't want drift. We'll paint right the way down to the bottom and along there. It's going to be a bit hard to get the gun in under there to get that bottom lip, but it'll do. Pardon me. So what I've done here, I've backmasked with a soft edge. What does all that mean? So this is the sticky side of the tape. I've stuck it onto the back of the opening right the way around through here, and the same on the other side. So what's going to happen, I'm going to drape this entire truck in plastic. This stuff here, the quick mask. So this stuff here is 4.8 meters wide. So I should be able to go from bottom over the top, right the way around. So I'm just going to roll it from the front, right the way across, right the way over, down to the back, or down to the window, and then cut it. And what I'll do is stick it onto this masking line. So this is my edge, so the new tape will stick onto that. And when it comes to these door openings, I'll just push the plastic up to that back masking, and I'll cut off any areas that I don't want masked. Probably make it clearer to be able to see it. That is what I'm going to do. So what you saw us do there was drape the plastic over the entire cab. So I bored it down to about here somewhere, and right the way down to the sides, and then right the way over the front. This stuff isn't expensive, so I don't mind having a little bit of waste. Try not to waste too much. Now what I've done on the other side here, which I haven't finished on the side that we're just looking at, is where that back masking was. I've just very carefully run around with a Stanley knife blade and just carefully touching the plastic and not cutting the tape, so that I cut the plastic. It's super thin, so it tears easily, it cuts easily. So just run it and then separate it. So I have masking right the way up to this line, so the soft edge, the back masking there from the tape, and then the plastic stops anything from getting into the cab or onto the roof or anything like that. So all of that masking that you saw on the cab earlier, and I go pretty fat in areas like this so that spray drift doesn't get up under it. Sometimes around seams and gutter rails and things, spray drift can get up, so I just try and put a bit of excess there to prevent that. But you saw the tape across the back here, so I cut the plastic halfway across the tape, so at about this line, and then just stuck it back onto the tape. So there's two layers of tape there. The underside one, the plastic comes on, then the outer tape is stuck to it. So the first tape gives the sharp edge, the plastic seals it all up, and the second lot of tape just sticks it to the first lot of tape. So around here, this is what I was talking about, just carefully separating it from the tape. So if I just carefully, I just put a little bit of pressure on the plastic and just cut it very, very lightly, not pushing onto the tape. I don't want to pull the tape off the panel that I've stuck it to, and I don't want to cut the tape. And what I'm doing is cutting it and then peeling it away from the tape. And then you can see it leaves the plastic right up the tape. Now I like using the 2-inch tape rather than the narrow stuff. Okay, sure, it's more expensive, but it gives me plenty of surface to stick the plastic to. And as I said, around where I'm taping to the body, I like putting a couple of rows, big fat rows of tape, plenty to stick to. I'd prefer to spend a bit of extra money on some tape than to get overspray in areas that I don't want it. Okay, I think I'll put you back on time lapse. I think you get the idea. Well, it's about 10 to 8 on New Year's Eve, and we're going to watch the 9 o'clock fireworks, so I've got to stop masking. So I'll see you in the new year. What you doing, guys? Just waiting for a mate.
Here he is.
Looks like your mate arrived. Now what? Going for a swim? Well, it's a new day. It's actually about a week later. I've had things that I've been doing, but this thing's all masked up. I was going to paint it shortly after I masked it up, and then realised that we didn't actually have to paint. I thought we did, but Sam just had a sample amount, so that wasn't going to be any good. So we went and got some paint. It's single stage, Unicolor, out of curiosity. The paint was $200 for 2 litres, so it's what, half a gallon in those terms. And then there's some hardener. I just got some normal hardener. I think it was about 40 bucks, so 250 bucks for the lot, which is pretty good value, I reckon. That should be plenty to get done what we need to do on this, and it might be enough to do the tray as well. This is 2 to 1, so if I put a litre of that, then I put 500 ml of that in, and so on. That's the way it works. 2 parts of this to 1 part of that. I've read all the technical data and everything. The preparation we've got here, I've just got to go over and just sand a couple of spots, just where I used sand through primer. Just going to do that with some 320 grit. And then what I'm going to do is, with the high build primer that I've got, which is this one, with this 4 to 1, I'm going to put 2 coats of that on to those surfaces there, and I'm doing wet on wet, so within 45 minutes I've got to put the top coat on. So the plan is do some sanding, once again go over and make sure that this place is all dust free, close my doors so that I absolutely swelter. Just out of curiosity, outside at the moment it is, what was it, 33 degrees in my shed. It's a bit hard for you to see, but that is 42 degrees Celsius, which is 108 degrees Fahrenheit. So if that sounds hot, yes it is. Humidity is low, it's about 40%, so that's okay. But what I'm sort of planning, because it's meant to rain for the next 3 or 4 days, I think. What I'm thinking, if I can get the paint on this, and I won't have much time in between coats, so not much flash time between coats, so I'll have to have all the primer ready, and I'll have to have the colour mixed and ready in the gun as well. Actually, I have to be careful with that. I can only leave this sitting for 30 minutes, so we'll see. I might start getting it ready. So, going to prep, then I'll clean it all up with wax and grease remover, tack it off, all that sort of stuff. Then I'll put 2 coats of high build primer. I'm not going to sand it because it's a wet on wet that I'm doing. So within 45 minutes, in this weather, I'm going to say within about 30 minutes, I need to start putting the colour down. So probably put 3 coats of colour straight over, so wet on wet. So no drying time in between or anything like that. Just some flash off. So got to give everything a good clean up and get into that. So if you haven't seen before, my shed's divided into two parts. I got these roller doors, so I'll drop those down. That protects everything that's in the other side there. Got a little bit of a full house at the moment. I'm working on my motorbikes as well. Got some tyre action happening here. A couple of the bikes anyway. And the Commodore, don't really care if that gets overspray on it. But anyway, I'll seal this part from the other part. Got the dado covered over. Make sure we're dust free, and then we will kick into it. So I guess I should do that. I don't normally make myself look like a pirate, but I don't really want to sweat onto everything, so it's a sweat catcher. So self-organised. So I'm just mixing the primer at the moment, just bring the glug from the bottom. I'll do the same to the paint in a little while as well. And I like to put my mixing, my information here. So this is for the primer. So it's 2 to 1. I can use 10 to 20% reducer, a 1.3 to a 1.4 tip, 28 psi, 2 to 3 coats. Sorry, that's not actually, that is actually the paint. Might help if I read the right instruction. Primer. 4 to 1, 30%, 4 to 1, 4 paint, 1 hardener, 30% reducer. I'm just using a normal hardener today. I could even use a slow hardener, being such warm weather. And if you're in cold weather, you use a fast hardener. Just makes it set up faster. 1.3 to 1.4 tip, so same tip for both. Got to use 29 to 36 psi, so I'll start off with 32. And as I said, the top coat uses 28, so I've just got to remember to knock it down a bit. But I'll play it by feel anyway. And I'm going to go for 2 coats, and I've got a flash off in normal conditions of between 10 to 15 minutes, so I'm going to aim at the 10-minute window, and I've got to overcoat this within 45 minutes. I've got some other guns, and I did have a new gun that I was going to use for my colour, and guess what, it's no good, so I'm going to have to use the same gun. So I've got a couple of pots, so a bit mixed up at the moment, but I've got my primer stuff here, I've got my paint stuff here, and I'm going to have a second pot ready, so I'm going to have to really quickly flush the primer out of this after I finish the second coat, because I'm doing 2 coats. So I'll quickly just flush through with some thinners, and then I'll set up with my colour. And rather than wash this out, take the trouble to wash this out and waste the time, I'm going to put a new pot on, then I'll fill it with the paint ready to go. So yeah, I'm not going to mix anything in advance, just in case. I'll mix this and use it, and then I've got that 45 or 30 to 45 minute window, I'm going to say, in this temperature. So I'll jump over and I'll mix this up quickly. I don't want to have it mixed sitting there and then have it go off. It's only got a pot life for a couple of hours, 3 hours I think it is. So yeah, I've wax and grease removed that, and I also wiped it down with glass cleaner, and the sand through primer doesn't respond well to wax and grease remover. And I also noticed that I missed this spot again. I think it's the third time I've walked past that and missed it. I'm going to 1K spot prime that, and then I'm going to wet on wet the high build primer over the top of it. I've sanded everything else, dusted it, all the rest of it, so I don't think I can do much more. I'm going to close all the doors and everything shortly. Now, just things with my tin, what I like to do, I just like to punch some holes in that inner rim in my tin, so that when I tip the paint, it actually goes into that rim and drips back into the tin. And also, what I'm going to do is just stick a bit of masking tape across here. So this is my pouring funnel. That way, I shouldn't have paint just spilling out everywhere, all over the side of everything, which has happened to me in the past. So people make all sorts of things. They make a little funnel out of the masking tape, and that I generally find this is okay. It minimises the mess. I also like to put down, just for cleanliness in general, for tidy up and so on, some paper. This is just masking paper underneath, so I can clean it up, and also reduces any dust concerns. And I've got this stand for my gun, just here, a little funnel, and then of course I'll be filtering the paint, and the filter sits up in here when I put it in there. And I've got a moisture trap on my gun. I actually have a separate moisture trap just here, and that's also my regulator, so that I can regulate it to 29 or 32 or whatever I'm using. got my compressor over here, and it also has a moisture trap on it. So I'll make sure that the compressor's drained of moisture, it's drained, this is drained. The longer the distance of your hose, the more chance you've got of moisture. So I just like to have this one midway through, and then the little one on the gun here. This one doesn't really do much, to be honest. Anyway, I think I'll get that mixed, put on my respirator and my overalls, and I'll put some latex gloves on as well, or some of these, so that I don't get paint all over myself, but also so I don't contaminate any surfaces with my waxy fingerprints. Oh, and I'm going to set that fan up so that it blows out that door, so that it's like an extraction system, so that it minimises the overspray that's sitting in the air. There's got to be heaps of it anyway, because this is well undersized. It's not professional, and yeah, it's not really the right thing, but it will help to give a bit of ventilation and suck some of the overspray out. So what I will do when I am doing particularly my final coat, I'll start on the other side of the car and work my way across here, so that any overspray gets sucked from that direction across there. If I paint this first and then go over there, then the fan potentially will suck the overspray across my finish. So as shed-like as it is, it's going to help a bit. Very little mess there. You can see it going back into the holes. And I'm using this cup, so I'm going 4:1, focus, 4:1, so this is the 4:1, so I've got 6 parts there, I'm a fraction over that, so I'll go up to here with my hardener, and then I'm going to use, for the wet on wet, what did I suggest? 30% reducer. So I'm going to go right the way up to this line here with my reducer. Okay, ask me if I'm hot. I'm hot. You would be if you were wearing a tent as well in 40-degree day. No, 32, let's not exaggerate. Anyway, we put down, I'm outside the garage now, I'm standing in front of my extraction fan, which is kind of nice, so I'm not going to turn it off, so that's what the noise is. What you saw me do was put on 2 quite wet coats of the body primer, and that went well. I used 30% reducer on that. I actually used the wrong tip. I was meant to use a 1.3 to 1.4 millimeter tip, and I still had my 1.8 in there from my epoxy. Didn't seem to make any difference, so no drama there. But I did switch it over. So you also saw me change over. No, I did the 2 coats, and in between I was just sort of doing a little bit of housework, I guess, cleaning my gun, just getting the next thing ready. So I got the blue paint ready after I did the first coat of primer, and then by the time I'd done the second coat of primer, the blue paint was sort of sitting there. I need to let it catalyse, so you need to mix the materials together. Now with the blue, the single stage 2K, had to let it catalyse for about 10 minutes in the pot. So that meant putting the paint in, putting the hardener in, putting the reducer in, mixing it, leaving it, mixing it, leaving it. So I did that in advance so that I could let the flash off happen with the other coats, and then tapped it in there. Now I mixed up a little bit too much of the blue. I mixed up one batch, and I put a super light coat on in the first case. Now I have a habit of putting the first coat on too thick and having paint runs, so I'm trying to learn from that. So I put the first coat on super thin, and then it flashed off super quickly, but it made it nice and sticky. Being wet on wet with a primer probably would have helped as well. Second coat went on really nicely, so I put it on a medium coat. Third one, medium coat. It said to put 2 to 3 coats on. I'm a rule breaker. Got to put 4 coats on. Why? Because I've got a bit of paint, but also because the first coat was so super thin. So I guess it'll be the equivalent of about 3.5 coats, literally. So I'm just getting a bit of fresh air, just letting that flash off for a little bit. Because it's so hot today, it is flashing off really quickly, which is nice. I can just get in there. So far I haven't seen any paint runs, fingers crossed. As I said, I'm pretty good at putting paint runs in. And I don't think I've missed any spots. I'm trying to get in underneath lips. Paint really doesn't go around corners very well, unless you don't want it to. It'll get in underneath the plastic where you've masked off and get onto everything. But if you're trying to paint the underside of something and don't get under and paint it, you won't get any paint on there. So I think I've got everything. And yeah, I'm just letting that third coat flash off. I'm going to jump in there in just a second. I'll put a 4th coat on. I'll let that dry off probably not more than about 15-20 minutes, maybe half an hour, and then I'm going to take off some of the masking so that I can not have too sharp a line there. But I have got soft edge masking and so on, so that is one thing. You don't want to leave your masking on for too long. Sometimes you can peel your masking off and it takes the paint with it, so if you do it while it's still tacky, well, not tacky before it's hardened, it'll peel away without smearing the paint. You've got to be careful that you don't touch the paint or drop anything on it, but you'll peel it away, and then the edge, as it hardens up, the edge sort of softens out by itself to a certain extent. Anyway, I've got to stand in front of this fan for a second, got to have a drink of water, and then I'm going to put the 4th coat on, which is already in the gun ready to go. Now here, Sam doesn't actually know I'm doing this today, so I think he will be pretty happy. I think the colour's right. That car was about 5 different colours of blue, so it'll end up with 1 or 2 the way we're doing it. We're not doing the whole thing, but it'll be alright. Much better than it did. Just before we do jump back on the gun, let's have a quick look. So yeah, there's a minor bit of orange peel, which I think is pretty expected. I find that tends to flatten out as the paint dries anyway. None of the back of this will be seen once the tray's there. So that was sort of a bit of a test, I guess, but it seems to be going okay. Door jambs, there's only so much that gets seen. Trying to make sure that I'm putting on a good coat on the scuff areas. Still got to do across the plenum underneath there in front of the windscreen where we did those rust repairs. These parts will pretty much never be seen, but if they get seen through a gap, they'll be the right colour. Even doing parts under here, which will probably end up with black paint on them eventually. And yeah, as I said, all around here. There is trim. Thought I saw a run then, but I didn't. There's some imperfections in the preparation work. As I've said before, we've done so much work to this. It will look 1,000,000% better than it did. I think it's looking pretty good. If need be, we can buff it, but I'd like to try and avoid that. Single stage, colour straight off the gun, shine straight off the gun. Won't make it any harder than it needs to. It certainly ain't a show car, but it's certainly got to look nice. It's probably, I don't know, 3/4 of an hour later. I've washed everything up. So I've got everything washed. I'm going to show you what I've used throughout this process, just today's process. Just so you know, it took me about 3 hours from start to finish today. So from putting where was today, you say, because the video is long. So when the time I started putting the primer down to now, about 3 hours. So I'm very happy with it. There's always orange peel in paint as far as I'm concerned. And it's a bit hard to show in the video, but the orange peel is very light. The light in here is not great, so it's a little bit hard to show. I still haven't opened the doors. It's still tacky, so where's my masking tape? So it's still tacky, so it would still grab dust. So I'm not going to chance that. Still got my fan going over there. So it's looking really good. I think Sam's got to be thrilled. So you've seen me do this, so I don't need to talk about it too much, I don't think. But pretty happy. Pretty happy. Okay, so what have we done? When we started off, I used wax and grease remover, and I used just glass cleaner. And I buy glass cleaner in bulk. So I just buy glass cleaner in bulk, and then I just put it into this, and that's basically what I buy anyways, Windex. I let them both dry completely. I tack ragged it to get any dust off. I made sure the environment was as clean as it can be, and the environment that I've got here, which is not wonderful. And then I used this, so primer filler, and we mixed it 4:1, and we put in 30% reducer. And this is what I used, universal reducer. On the instructions it says thinners. I always just use reducer. This is what I use in all my 2K, and this is a 2K, so it makes sense to me. I should really use Car Master, but I think thinners is thinners. Could be wrong. I had a bit left over, so I mixed up about 600 ml, I think it was, and I had about, I don't know, 100, 150 ml left. That was after 2 coats on what you saw there. So flash times in between for that stuff was 10 to 15 minutes. I went for the 10 minutes because of the heat. And I had to get the overcoat, so the blue one, within 45 minutes. And I reckon I did it in about 35. And as I said earlier, in between, I washed up a lot of the stuff that I'd been using. Now, on washing up, and we'll come back to this stuff, on washing up, I've washed my mask. Your sweat will deteriorate it, so I just wash it in water. I've got my cartridges. These are consumables, so this part and the part inside, well, the whole thing in fact, is a consumable. They're going to need to be changed soon, replaced soon. Mixers, they're a consumable, but quite frankly, it's got 2-pack paint on it. I'm just going to let it dry and I can use it again. Seems tight, and I've got a heap of them, but it doesn't hurt. It is basically waterproof after it's done. So back to this. Used wax and grease remover in the cleaning process, and glass cleaner. I used universal reducer with that. Then when I mixed up my colour, so with this is 2 parts paint to 1 part hardener, and as I mentioned earlier, I used normal hardener on both. I could probably I could probably use them, but I like to stick brand specific. I like to try and work that way with that as much, whereas things like this, I'm a little more liberal with it. So I mixed that up, and with that I went 2:1, and what did I do? I think I ended up going about 15% reducer on the first couple of coats, and I put 20% reducer in the last coat because I wanted it to flow out a bit better to reduce that orange peel. Now, the thing that I've found with that is the more you reduce it, the more you thin it out, the more chance you've got of it running. So, gun control, I sound like I'm a marksman, I'm not. Gun control is one of the things that I have to watch there. And as I said, I don't think I've got any runs, so I'm pretty happy. I'm pretty, as I said, pretty happy with the way that's coming out. And the reducer that I use is that one, the 2K reducer, the same one. So, and then I've got this. This is just an old thinners tub. This is nearly full. When I wash my gun out, I get that. It's horrible, dirty. I get my gun and I put it through and I wash it out once with that. And then once that's done, I tip it all back in there. And I just reuse that. That drum's nearly full. It'll have to go to like a waste disposal place soon. And then I go through and I pull my gun completely apart. So everything, all of the components in here, the needle, all of that stuff, pull it all apart. And I wash it in nice, clean, universal, multi-purpose thinners. That's the only thing I use multi-purpose thinners for, is for that, and sometimes just cleaning things down, like cleaning my paint stripper off, for example. So I use this as a bit of a clean-up thing, and it says gun wash there, but it's gun wash to me because that's all I use it for, but it's literally just multi-purpose thinners. It's cheaper than reducer, so why waste my reducer? It's 33 bucks for 4 litres, so for a gallon. Whereas my reducer's 42. It's only a little bit, but I need that for when I'm painting. I use that, the thinners, for when I'm cleaning. So, first flush, old stuff. Then I go through and I give a second and a third flush with a nice clean tub of that. And all the time, I'm washing out all my mixing containers as well, because I don't throw these out. This one will be thrown out. Why? Because it's got primer in it, and I'm just not going to bother. It can go in the bin, that one. I've used it probably 30 times. So, and then all of that wash out thinners that I double rinse the gun with goes into here. By the end of it, everything's clean. I've got this in here, and I just keep all the old paint tins and things, all these guys, they're just all the old ones, so that I can continue to do that. And I put my old waste oil and things in any of those tins as well. That's all just empty stuff, which I can take to recycling depots. So, I guess one of the key takeaways from that, I think, is clean your equipment and clean it well. I know that I can pick up this gun and it will work next time. This brand new gun, which is only a cheapie, but this brand new gun, I picked it up and the thing doesn't work. So I'll have a look at that. I don't know why. I've got another gun in there that's broken, spare parts. Anyway, clean up, clean environment is a better environment to paint. And it's also more enjoyable environment to work in, and it means that when you pick your equipment up, it'll be ready to go. This stuff is all explosive, all flammable. I keep all of my paint things in a separate cabinet. That stays closed, so if I'm welding or whatever, it's over there. Now, I guess if I was in a paint shop, that'd be in a separate room completely, but it is over there. My flammable stuff stays away. So, I'll show you the unmasking, but yeah, we're nearly there on this stage anyway. One final comment on cleanup. Your rags, particularly on a hot day, but any day, don't let them sit scrunched up. Don't just throw them in the bin. Let them dry out. Why? Because potentially they will spontaneously combust and burn your workshop down. So I just sit them like that, let them dry out, and then they're good. I mentioned how hot it was in those overalls. Don't know if it shows up, but I am drenched. Nice. Well, definitely a bit cooler now. I don't mean to boast, but I just had the most beautiful dinner. Honey and soy chicken drumsticks and salad. Also noticed that I look like a Smurf. Or maybe I am a pirate. I'm Bluebeard. Maybe I need to put that bandana back on. So, we're going to unmask this thing. Where is it? That thing. In a minute. Because, I'll just show you. We have absolutely touch dry. So, that's good. I could still leave fingerprints in it if I wanted to. But it's ready to reveal. Unfortunately, what I'm going to reveal will look pretty poor because the roof needs a paint and everything, but it'll at least be revealed. Now, I guess one of the next things we need to do is this door. It's got a bit of rust down the bottom. Bit hard to see. What you might be able to see is that it's covered in dust, but it's also got about 5 different shades of blue on it from top to bottom, inside to out, door locks and so on. So we're going to give it a once over. And this door was pretty beaten around. Ages ago we did some videos on this. Actually, that was one of my highest viewing videos. Sam and I fabricated corners for this and did the bottom of it, and so this has been in epoxy primer for a couple of months now. Sam was just sanding it up the other day. Originally we were just going to paint the bottom. We've now decided we're going to paint all of the blue. We'll come back for the white later on. Probably a completely ridiculous way of doing it, but we're just trying to make it look like something. He wants to get this registered, so it's important to get rid of all the rust and everything and make it look half decent, and then he can work on it bit by bit and like paint the white and do the roof and all that. Leads a little bit of work mechanically, but it's not too bad. Alright, so I'm gonna strip the mask off this and do the reveal. You know, I've said it a few times, but that paint has come up really well. It's impossible to know whether that's the right colour or not. I like it. It's a good dark colour. We've obviously got to do all of this area here. As I've explained, there's rust repairs that have been done and so on. So we've got to go through and we've got to epoxy prime this area here and prep it. And we might drop a couple of things off the firewall. Maybe not do the whole thing, just where you can see from an eye shot. And we'll get all this stuff done. I don't know that these wiper mechanisms were meant to be blue, but anyway. So we can match all that. Only parts of this will get seen. When you see through the wiper cowl, you'll see parts of this. So we may even do in there black. I'll see. We'll see. Sam will see, I guess. But yeah, we've done to particular points. These areas here we'll probably paint, even though they'll probably end up black. So it's looking good. A bit of masking error here, but that doesn't matter because this will all be painted black. But just before we painted this the other day, I did some seam sealer on some welds there as well. Things like this rubber were previously painted, had got paint on them previously. I didn't bother taking it off. We'll just probably paint it black with something. Nice sharp line, not that it's going to be seen, there's a chrome strip that goes across there. And just to remind you, just before I finish off here, everything from about here on this entire cab was replaced by Sam and myself. There's a small section of the floor through the middle that wasn't replaced, and part of the kick panel at the front. Part of it was, part of it wasn't. But everything else was replaced. So going back when Sam got this, I don't know, it's probably 3 years ago now, dramatic inroads. So I think once those doors are painted and hung up there, he's going to be pretty happy. So that's a wrap for this one, I think. Well, I think it looks good. Sam hasn't seen it yet, so hopefully he'll think it looks good too, because I'm not redoing it otherwise. If you enjoyed this or anything else, please give me a thumbs up, a like, subscribe, share it with a friend, share it with someone you don't like, punish them. I appreciate you being here. Sam appreciates you watching what's going on here. Tune in again to Toxic Garage Customs and see what we're up to next time. Stay safe, pick up a grinder or a spray gun, cut or paint something. Be creative. but do something.